Hey guys, Eric Kaplan here. I want to share with you a green reading secret that PGA Tour caddies get fired for not knowing. And I promise this will probably save you one shot every single time you play. So let's dive into it. What actually causes a golf ball to break is an idea in physics called precession. So if you have a ball over a flat surface like this, the center of the golf ball is directly over the point of contact. So while it's rolling, it's going to roll straight, because gravity's not pulling it this way nor that way. Now, if I'm on an inclined plane, all of a sudden the very center of the golf ball is no longer over the point of contact, and gravity wants to pull it down in this direction. So while it's rolling towards you, gravity's going to nudge it down. And of course it's going to nudge it down towards the end of the putt because it's traveling slower. So what you learn from this is something that is super important, in that the slower the ball rolls, the more it's going to break. So if we were to go over to greens that they have on Augusta National, super fast, like lightning fast, the ball there, because there's a lot less friction, travels slower, therefore has to break more, which is why people all think that fast greens are more difficult. It's because they are, because you have to better marry your speed and your line. So how am I going to knock a stroke off your round every single time you play? This is interesting. So if you have an uphill putt versus a downhill putt, which one is traveling faster, which one is traveling slower? And of course the downhill putt, because there's less speed associated, the ball is traveling slower down the hill. And because a downhill putt is traveling slower, it has to break more. So if I have a player on tour who I know is making a lot of progress with his putting stroke and the putts still aren't dropping, I'll ask him to invite his caddy out to the putting green. And I'll give a caddy one hole, and I'll ask him to read from both sides of the cup. I'll say, hey, we have a downhill 15-footer and an uphill 15-footer on the same exact slope. And if that caddy gives me the same amount of break for both the uphill and the downhill putt, they're fired. Why? First of all, it's my player's livelihood. And secondly, the downhill putt has to break more because it's traveling slower. Now, I'm sure you've all been in the situation where you're playing a match against somebody else and you have that downhill putt that breaks 6 inches and it goes center cut. And the person you're playing against has an uphill putt from the same distance away. If that person goes ahead and plays 6 inches to break, they're going to miss it high every single time. Because if you're reading the break before reading the uphill and the downhill, it's like reading greens in English and putting them in Latin. You're not choosing yourself any favors. So just knowing that a downhill putt will break more will probably save you one shot every single time you play. Why? It's called physics.